Thanks for tuning in today, or thanks for joining us on this episode of Addicts Living Free. I got a great guest on the show today, Dougie. Say hi to everybody.
Hey, I'm Dougie. I'm an addict.
Welcome. So I'll give you a fun fact about Dougie. Dougie likes to, you know, breed or again collect all these exotic pets, if that's what you want to call them: spiders, tarantulas, snakes, just really random pets, I guess.
Yeah, all the creepy crawlies.
Awesome. To get this show started, you want to give a shout out to anybody?
Ooh, I wasn't expecting that. Didn't plan for that. Just shout out to my homies from all the recovery communities that I'm part of here, Edmonton, Calgary. Brothers from my treatment center. All those. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for everybody in recovery that I've come across in the last couple of years.
Awesome. Well, cheers to that, right? The way I start every episode off is, what's one thing you're grateful for today and why?
Um, Today I'm grateful for another chance to do a little better than I did yesterday.
Sweet, sweet. So I like to touch back on childhoods, just to kind of like let people know, you know, our upbringings, are similar, but also the different, right? So you
Yeah.
want to share your childhood a bit with us?
Yeah. So, at a very young age, I got diagnosed with ADHD, and I could always tell I was a little bit different than everybody in my class, in my school, and on my sports teams, everything. And it turns out I was also an addict. So that coupled with ADHD and some pretty heavy stimulants at a young age, it definitely paved the path of what my adolescence and adulthood kind of came together. Like it was a good household, no extreme violence. There was some abuse and some physical and sexual and all that kind of stuff. Nothing crazy, but like I thought I had a good childhood, a good upbringing, and I went through treatment the first time, and we started talking about family and trauma and that stuff, and I had a chance to look back at some of the abuse that my mother went through with my grandparents being part of the picture. Single mom, two boys, and my grandparents were partial caregivers too. So things were different when they were younger. So I don't know. Everybody did the best they could, and I was an addict from the get go. I can tell just by my childhood with books and video games and food and candy and all that kind of stuff from the get go.
It's kind of like, it's funny the things you learn later in life, like, and when you start living, I don't know, a different lifestyle, to be able to reflect back and just see that common traits, right? Or see that, I don't know, see that similarities or whatever, the behavioral
Yeah,
stuff.
like kind of like the precursors of like, oh right, yeah, I was like that with food for sure and books. Anything that I could escape with, really. It started well before drugs and alcohol were part of my life, and being able to identify that now back then, and I see those patterns coming through even in recovery too. I see it with the way I interact with people and just life in general too. Like it's all or nothing, and the disease of more is prominent in me for sure.
Yeah, I can relate with that. Anything that makes me feel good, I want more.
Yeah,
Like, why
yeah,
stop, right? Why stop with a little when, if it makes me feel good, I want to fucking do it.
yes, yeah,
So, but that mindfulness, that awareness is a game changer too, right?
yeah, yeah, for sure.
How old were you when you got introduced to drinking drugs?
It was like grade six. I was an asshole in school. I got suspended all the time. I got expelled in grade six, and then I transferred to a new school halfway through the year. And it was shortly after that I I realized that my mom was smoking pot through one of my friends. His parents were also smoking pot, and they were kind of friends and associates after we moved fairly close to them, and then we started taking little bits of pot and hash, and that quickly turned into to alcohol on the weekends. And then it was basically like summer break between grade 7 and grade 8 was just party as hard as we could and drink all the time, and find a different house party every weekend and figure out how we were going to get somebody to boot alcohol for us. And it didn't seem like an issue at the time. It was the typical like teenage, like experimenting, getting like accustomed to that life in a hurry too. Like the first time I drank and got sick basically from the get-go, and it was like, this is what my life is missing. This is what I needed to be able to get out of myself, to interact with people and feel like normal.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and when you know, like, how old are you if you don't?
Ooh, I'm 36. I had to think about that. Yeah.
So cool. The reason I ask is just because, like, generations, right? And seeing, like,
Yeah.
close to different generations, because there's a time period right around like yours. I'm 40. What that things shifted a little bit, right?
Yeah.
And feelings, and when you don't, I was never raised either to deal with feelings or identify like internally, right? Like,
Yeah.
that shit gets buried, right? So I can see how we cross that line, right?
Yeah.
What was the progression like, from 14 that summer? Maybe first time you kind of got introduced to the heavier drugs, or did you ever get into trouble
Uh,
as a kid?
like from about 14 to 18, I strictly stuck to alcohol and pot. There was some psychedelics and mushrooms in between there. And like I grew up in Sherwood Park. It's a little bit nichey compared to some other places. There wasn't a lot of hard drugs around, and the groups of people that were doing that were kind of like judged and frowned upon. And like there was definitely hard drugs around, but I kind of at that point already kind of knew like I could turn cigarettes and alcohol and pot into a problem already. Like I need to be careful. I don't want to like ruin my life this early by doing hard drugs, because there was a few people in our circles that were like on the outskirts of our circles that were already doing coke and ecstasy and that kind of stuff, and you could see like they were fucked up already at a young age too. And then around my 18th birthday is the first time I tried cocaine, and like instantly hooked. Like within weeks it was like every weekend, it didn't matter what, it was like there was coke coming, there was ecstasy involved, and then the club drugs took over my life in such a quick fashion, and they never left. Basically from about 19 to 30, it was like a constant coke filled like disaster, really.
Like a lifestyle almost.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, Over that period of time, did you ever have any moments of clarity, maybe where shit hit the fan, and then you're like, I need to change, or you tried to stop on your own?
Yes, actually, you know what? Several times I overdosed on ecstasy a couple times in my early 20s, and I realized like waking up in a hospital and waking up like handcuffed to a hospital bed is not something normal people do. Is not something that should be happening, and it happened on several occasions. Like the second time that happened, I had lost my phone, lost my wallet, I lost like everything, and the only phone number I could remember at the time was an ex girlfriend of mine, and I called her at like 7 o'clock in the morning. I was like out in Sturgeon Hospital because all of the hospitals in city limits were full. There was a EDM festival that night, and there was definitely some other overdoses. But I woke up, I had no clue where I was, how to get out of there, so I called her, and like she drove out from Sherwood Park to come pick me up there. And like that drive back was like one of those moments where it was like, hey, I need to stop what I'm doing, because like this, I can see how much my poor choices here is affecting this girl's life, and like we're not even together anymore, and like she is visibly upset that I don't even care that I just overdosed. And like I promptly got out of her car and realized I had more MDMA in my pocket, and I took that shit. Like I kept getting high right after that, and it's like around that time is when I realized like I need to slow this down. I need to stop doing drugs. So I quit doing hard drugs by that time too. I was experimenting with crack as well as coke, MDMA all the time, and I tried to stop doing the drugs, and it turned into me smoking pot every single day, drinking 3 or 4 nights a week. And I thought that was clean. I thought I was sober. I thought that was like, I'm not doing hard drugs, I'm not blowing hundreds of dollars, I'm not blacking out, I'm just constantly in an altered state of mind from pot and alcohol. And I did that for about 6 months, and I felt really good about it. And I thought like maybe I can go back to doing some cocaine here and there. And like again, as soon as I touched that stuff, everything blew up around me, and I lost another girlfriend from that. I Yeah, work got hard. I started missing shifts. I started lying to my friends, going out hiding like that I was doing drugs and didn't want to share with people. I would go out for a couple drinks and call the guy and go pick up, and I would disappear for days on end. Nobody knew where I was. I wouldn't reply. I would just basically lock myself away. Didn't want to share, didn't want to interact with people. And like by that time it had such a hard grip on my life that I didn't even want to admit that it was a problem. And I just convinced myself like, this is okay, I like doing this, this is what this is what I want to do, and it's fine, it's totally fine. And it was definitely not fine.
I totally get that. When I was 21, I was homeless. I had a bicycle, a backpack, and a jacket with six pockets, right? And that was
Yeah,
my bottom. But I had convinced myself that I was just free spirited and I was just living the life I wanted. And but at the same time, I was telling myself this isn't my life. It's just until I go back to school, go back to work, right?
yeah,
But it was that lie I told myself that I had chose this, when in fact, like, as much as I made the choices, I really didn't choose it. Like, I was a slave
yes,
to it because I couldn't stop.
yeah. And there was just like that inner justification that came with that, those thoughts of thinking like this is okay, I want to do this. And it's like, no man, this is horrible, this is no way to live.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Did you realize that in that period, did you realize you were affecting other people, or that, what, it was just kind of my life, my choice?
definitely my life, my choice. I thought I was hiding it from everybody. I thought I did a really good job of, and like most of my close friends knew like I was dabbling in like crack and stuff like that too. So it was like we'd get out, we'd do a couple lines, and then instantly it would trigger that like, I need more. The coke's not enough. Like, and I would just bugger off for a couple days, and like my family didn't really realize. Like I remember when I finally came clean to my mom that I had a drug problem. She thought I spent the last 3 or 4 years with like a crippling gambling addiction, because like I never had money. Like I had a good job, a good career, living paycheck to paycheck, but I did manage to hide the drug aspect of that. But she knew something was up. Like, and I didn't think it was affecting anybody else around me, because it was just like, this is my life, this is what I'm doing. It doesn't matter. Nobody cares about me. I don't even care about me. Like it's, yeah.
Did you have like an illusion of what, like, maybe a drug addict looked like, or the alcoholic looked like, kind of to set that bar that if I ever get that bad, then yeah, maybe I might have a problem?
Yeah, I think back to that kind of lifestyle too, and it's just like you think about the guy sleeping in the tent down by the river, somebody who doesn't have a job, who's carrying bags of bottles and stuff. And like I managed to keep a solid career for 10, 15 years of that party lifestyle. So it was always like, you know what, I have a car, I have a cell phone, I have a job, I don't need friends. I don't need a girlfriend. I couldn't keep a girlfriend. I couldn't keep friends. There was like, I pushed everybody so far away that by the time like everything came crashing around me, like it was like there was nothing. There was nobody around. There was nothing left. All the people who had spent some time trying to reach out and trying to see if I was okay, family members, all that stuff, they were so far out of my life that I didn't even know where to turn. Like it, yeah.
So, moving a little bit forward, then, um, how did you ever find out about? Well, okay, before your clean date today, like, what were some bottoms where you maybe honestly gave it an effort to try and quit, or did you try and quit on your own before your clean date?
You know what? Like I went through the whole treatment thing. Like I'd lost my job, lost my career in 2018, and within 2 months of that, I basically burned through all any kind of money I had, any kind of stuff that I could sell that was of any substantial value. And that's when it was like psychosis was happening on very regularly, couple trips to the ER, and it was like, okay, I need help. A dear friend of mine sent me to a treatment center in Edmonton. She knew she had a contact who was working there, and I got onto a wait list to get into treatment there, and it was very quick. Within 2 weeks, I was moving in and going to treatment, and that was like the one of the scariest days of my life. Was packing up a couple bags and going into treatment, and it didn't last long. I couldn't admit and like just I was there to try to get my life back. I wasn't there to quit using drugs. I wanted to figure out how to use drugs without piling up and ending up in the hospital and ending up in psychosis and ending up on 4 day binges when I just wanted to get one. I went to treatment to try to get back to that. I want to do one and be okay kind of thing.
It's funny, yeah. Looking back, and knowing what you know now, right? Like, it's funny because I did the same thing. Like, I went, to please somebody else and thought I was still going to use on weekends and go to school and,
Yeah,
like buy a
yeah,
certain amount and then break it up and like just space it out. And then
yep,
when I got there, I realized like I just can't. Like, getting honest with myself, there was no chance, right?
yeah, yeah.
How long were you supposed to go for? How long did you last?
That was a 90-day program. I think I made it to the weekend. I could get a weekend pass. It was about 60 days in, and weekend pass happened to line up right around Christmas. So I was home for a couple days on Christmas break, and I was living on Alberta Works at the time, and I had applied for medical EI when I first got into treatment because they told me that was a thing, and all of that money came like while I was on weekend pass. And I was like, oh, you know what? I got some money now. I got a couple days. You know what? I should be all right to get an 8 ball. And by the time I got to go back after my weekend pass, I should be able to piss clean if they're going to pee test me. And I picked up and I didn't stop and I never went back, or not never. I didn't go back that round of treatment at that facility, and that triggered a pretty hard relapse. And I had met a couple not so spiritual people while I was in there, so I had come out of treatment with a couple new connections to different drugs, harder drugs. That's when I got introduced to crystal meth. I could not afford cocaine anymore, and yeah, crystal meth took over real quick. And within 3 or 4 months of doing that, like my life was so dark, so hard, so grimy. And that was the time when it was like, hey, I need to do this again. I need to go through treatment again. This is what's going to save me, is go back through treatment one more time. I missed something, maybe those last couple weeks after the weekend passed. That's what I needed. That though that's I missed a couple really important groups, and that's why I can't use like a gentleman. I can't stop when I start. It wasn't they weren't very disease based there. I did like I took me years of trying this to real like before somebody told me like, you have a disease, you have a disorder, you have something in your brain that's fighting you to use drugs. Yeah.
Yeah. What's your clean date today?
January 8th, 2021. Yeah.
So you're coming up on 2 years.
Yeah, just coming up on 2 years.
Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
What was so with that clean date where it is? Do you want to describe your life and then how describe your life just before you got clean? Share with us where you're at and then how you started your recovery this time around.
Okay. So after that last relapse when I was on meth, that's not even the last relapse. Here I am like inventing clean time. After meth kind of took over and I went back through treatment again, I I made it through the whole round this time. Was just about to move into sober living with that establishment, and then I relapsed again. and that relapse took over my life for almost a year. I was out hard, um, and I thought I was gonna die. Like I really did. Like there was so I was using to die near the end of that bout. I'd lost everything, lost my job, lost like everything was gone. I had nothing left by that point, and it's like I tried to call that treatment center again to get on the wait list, and they were like, you know, Doug, like we don't think we've got what you need here. Like we've heard some good things about this treatment center in Calgary. So I had actually heard of that place through some of the 12-step rooms when I was around in Edmonton too. So I called them and got on the wait list to get out there. And when hit, COVID started, I was still in the wild pretty hard, living paycheck to paycheck on Alberta Works, trying to figure out like what I'm gonna do and how I'm gonna get to Calgary and all this stuff. And like and my mom got diagnosed with lung cancer like while I was on a wait list to get in there. And that's when they started handing out $2,000 of COVID money to everybody too. And like I hadn't worked in a couple of years. I was definitely not eligible for that. So I made that phone call, and I woke up one morning and there was 2 grand in my bank account, and it all went to one large order of drugs. And I overdosed, and I had a stroke, and I spent a good part of 2 weeks in the hospital recovering from that. And I had called the treatment center that I was on the wait list for, and I had let them know what happened. And that's why I'd missed a couple phone of my daily phone-ins and stuff. And they realized like this guy's not going to make it if we don't do something. It was probably another 3 months on the wait list to get in there, and within 2 weeks I was packing my bags and moving to Calgary for a treatment center that's very 12-step based. And that's where my life started to change. I got a taste of recovery. I got a taste of what the 12 steps meant in my life, and what I could see the community in Calgary was a little bit different than what I had experienced here. I was ready. I was willing. I was hungry. I got a taste of that. And I was like 4 days short of 9 months clean. When I came back for a Christmas break, I'd spent basically that 9 months in Calgary working through treatment, working through getting a service position with a fellowship there, building a recovery family in Calgary. And I took a couple weeks off of recovery to come back here to visit for over Christmas. And I thought I could have one drink, and one drink turned into to 2 drinks the next day, and those 2 drinks turned into a 10-day binge, and I effectively burned my life to the ground. And I called the treatment center that I had went through. I was living in their sober living establishment, and I informed them like I relapsed pretty bad, and I need help, and I don't know what to do. So they gave me a couple days to get my shit together and get back to Calgary, and I had to check into detox, and I went through detox, and I went a couple weeks living at a shelter in a detox there while they were trying to figure out what they wanted to do with me. And it's like I was working Doug's program at that time. I was doing most of the things they tell you to do. I was doing everything up until about step 10. I wasn't working with others. I didn't want a service position. I was too busy for a service position. I was too busy for all these extra things that came with recovery in the 12-step rooms that they suggest that you do. And it wasn't until after that last crash and burn where it was like, you know what, fuck, I'm done. I can't pull back from this recovery life and maintain a spiritual connection with recovery people, with recovery in general, and with my higher power. I need to just do all these things that they've been telling me to do for a couple of years. Like I went through, there's 12-step fellowships in Edmonton, a couple of them that I bounced around with in the early years. And I heard all these things at every single meeting, and I never wanted to do them. I didn't want to partake in certain steps because of certain words that were in it. I didn't want to work with other people because I didn't want to be responsible for somebody else's recovery and all that. Like I had all these excuses to just do the bare minimum to get a taste of what recovery could do in my life. And it wasn't until like that 2 week stay in detox when I was like, you know what, if I use, I'm homeless. If I use, I'm going to hospitals. If I use, I'm like, death is next. Jails, institutions, and death. Like I had checked off a couple of those things. I wasn't ready to check off the last one. So that was when I just gave in. I surrendered. I picked a fellowship that I was comfortable with. I started making friends. I got a service position and I started working the program as it's laid out in the big book. And that is when my life completely changed. That little taste of recovery that I had before was just that was just a scratch in the paint of like what is possible living that life and making those connections and just being, like, just being. I was sick of trying to survive and trying to hide behind masks and you know, recovery is, it's a beautiful thing. And like being part of a fellowship that's growing right now between a couple cities. Like I've got some friends here, I've got a lot of friends in Calgary that I'm like so happy to be like doing this recovery thing with. It's amazing. I can't remember what question you asked me. I
It's all good. It sounded great.
went off for 10 minutes there.
It sounded great. You took us up to your bottom anyway.
Yeah.
So, and then getting back into treatment and
Yeah.
touched on recovery. When you went back to treatment this time, right?
Yeah.
How long did you stay for when they let you back?
When they let me back, they decided to let me stay in their secondary still instead of going through full live-in treatment. I just did the day program that they offer, which was another 14 weeks. Basically, go through the steps with a counselor in a group with a couple guys, and yeah, that was my last round of treatment. My last. I'm done.
You hear the expression "gift of desperation," right?
Yeah.
You know, do you want to kind of elaborate on that one, like how that impacted your life? Because it sounded like you kind of felt that, or
Oh, for sure. Let's we'll call the detox center the Calgary version of the Spady. It was a very dark, grimy place, and that's, you know, growing up in Sherwood Park and like being around the rooms in Edmonton and stuff like that. Like I had a couple bouts of homelessness where I was living in my car, couch surfing and stuff like that. I'd never really experienced like staying in a shelter, sleeping on the mats with struggling individuals that go to places like that. And that was like, I think about that a couple times a week still. Like I do some service work where I'm going back to those kind of places, and I go to that detox center to share and to bring in crystal meth anonymous meetings into that place. And it's such a reminder of like how quick I can lose everything and be back at that point where I'm going to be on a wait list to get in another treatment center, burn through all my money, everything. And it's all just, it's a few poor choices away where all of a sudden it seems like it's a good idea to go pick up.
yeah, 100%, right? And as you've learned too, it's the first one.
Yeah.
You know, it's not the second or the third,
Yeah.
right? It's the fucking first one that gets you every time, right?
Yeah.
You know, and without that one, you don't need the other ones, right? What were some of the challenges you had to face that first year? You know, that you overcame, or first even 6 months, right? Like, what were some of the biggest challenges or hurdles?
You know, like I had some pretty tough times living in Calgary with my mom. She'd been doing lung cancer treatments back here in Edmonton over the first year of this last time, and I was scared to come back to Edmonton. Like I didn't think I was stable enough to be back here, especially going through times of stress and hardship with a family. But I made some plans with people here. I planned out my trips, couple days max, and I was going to a meeting every single day I was here. That was like the inner boundary that I set up for myself when I was coming back here. And it's like, it didn't matter what was happening. I was getting my ass to a meeting. And I think after like the last time I'd come here and I crashed and burned, and I just made amends with my mother too, right before Christmas break when I relapsed. And it like, I felt very silly of sitting down and having this conversation with her, and like taking responsibility for my past actions. And then like a week later I was getting high in the basement again, and like I didn't ever want that feeling again with her. I didn't want that to be our relationship. And for me to come back here for a couple days at a time, and to I was busy doing meetings, I was busy doing fellowship stuff here too, and like I could tell that my mom was okay with it. She knew like if I wasn't doing those things, I'm sick and I'm not going to be well. So I need to be present in recovery here as well as back in Calgary too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, and it's it's nice with that 12-step fellowship is that wherever you go, like you're welcome, right? Like people,
Oh yeah,
open
it
arms,
is.
open, like,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. And like there's not a lot of good things that came out of COVID, but like with the Zoom meetings too, I know for a really long time there was that was all lots of people could do. And like I've met some people from different provinces, different countries doing that too, where I got familiar with them through doing Zoom meetings too. And it's like it's a beautiful thing that came out of it with that.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. I like the expression to it. You know, there's no such thing as strangers, just friends I haven't met yet.
Yes, yeah, for sure. And the fellowship that I'm part of, there's a high concentration of people with ADHD. I've noticed that it's a thing in Crystal Meth Anonymous. These are my people. This is like who I identify with and who I feel comfortable around, because I am uncomfortable in my own skin. I am uncomfortable around lots of people. I'm uncomfortable in in most social settings, but I get over that little bit of fear going to a new meeting or going to a new place, and then all of a sudden it's just like my people are here. You're welcomed. You're part of that. You're everybody cares about you. They want you to do what they did to get better and to have what they have by doing that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and they'll lead by example, right? It's not
Yes.
just
Yeah.
somebody talking at you and telling you how to do it, right? It's
Yeah.
living proof.
Yeah.
You know, it's living proof, and that's one of, I think one of the most amazing things too, right? Is people talking the talk and walking the walk, right?
Yeah.
Triggers then, like, what were, how'd you overcome some of the triggers at first, or even today? Like, if you know you get triggered, what's something? How do you combat that, or
You know, I think back to like pre-treatment times when I wasn't ready, and I wasn't I didn't want to stop yet. I just wanted to figure out how to do it better. Like after going through a set of steps with a sponsor, and like doing the work through the book, like I can't really think back to any recent times of being triggered. It's there's definitely thoughts. There's definitely some like fuck it's I could get high right now and things would be okay thoughts. Like I go through some pretty rough areas and I see some pretty hard shit, and it I feel that like compassion. Like I would rather be able to help these people than to like if I see a bat on the ground or somebody shooting up, like it's not really a trigger thing. Yeah, I don't know about that question. I don't
fair
know if
enough?
I have a good answer for that.
No, you know, and triggers is sometimes like it's, you know, there's uh triggers such a like a harsh word, I
Yeah,
guess, right? Or you know, such a direct word, you know, like, and I don't really get triggered today, like,
yeah,
but I do get that first thought occasionally, right?
yes, yeah,
And then you get to change the preceding thoughts. But yeah, that
yeah.
first thought you have no control over. Do I romance it or anything like that? Absolutely not.
Well, and I feel like the way life is going right now, and like I'm working full time. I've got the girlfriend, I've got the car, I've got the job, I've got these things, and it's like I get these random fleeting thoughts of like, fuck it, crash and burn, or like everything's going too well, something bad is going to happen. I don't know if we'll categorize that with a trigger, but like those thoughts happen, and those are like, let's go to God, let's get it on paper, get it in a text message, tell on myself with my pillars, and reach out about it, pray about it, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I like that you said it, like put it on paper. I think that's a big one for me too. Is so what's the benefits of pen to paper? How's that helped you?
Oh, that's a fuck. I love that, man. I really struggle with like getting getting my thoughts out to people and like expressing how I feel and how I think and how something else makes me feel. And you know, I s- every treatment center I've ever been to is a huge part of it is like gratitude lists and journaling and all that kind of stuff. And I fucking hated it. I thought it was a waste of time, a waste of paper, a waste of pen. My original sponsor from a different fellowship, like I was trying to do step work with him, and I was like, "Can I just type this up on my computer?" And he was like, "No, you are not doing that. Like, there is a certain part of your brain that gets activated while you're doing pen to paper. This is what we do, pen to paper." It's taken me 3 years of like forcing myself to journal and to write about my feelings and stuff. And now I love it, man. I can sit down and I can start writing, and all of a sudden I got 2.5 pages of chicken scratch there of how I feel and like how things are going in my life. And then it's a lot easier for me to articulate that into a conversation with somebody, or to be able to connect with somebody else when I'm like working with others, doing some kind of step work with somebody else too. Is like those feelings are universal through this, those feelings of despair and isolation and all that stuff. Like it's, we all feel the same thing in this. And like being able to express it, I couldn't do it vocally. I had to learn what all these feelings and stuff were, and I did that by writing it out and talking about it, or I guess writing about it before I could talk about it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And and I've said this one lots on the show before, is that feeling face chart or whatever that has all the different feelings.
Oh yes, yeah,
That
yeah,
sat on my fridge for a year when
yeah,
I first got clean because I had no fucking idea what they were. I had to
yeah,
go
man,
over and like
yeah,
identify them all the time. And
yeah.
I just gave my kids a journal here and my wife a journal. And in the cover it is I stapled off that feeling face chart or
Oh,
whatever.
that's awesome.
So that way they
Yes,
can just
yeah,
kind of flip back and relate and like identify like what am I feeling or how did this make me feel. So that way they
yeah,
can process those emotions, right?
yeah.
Because it's huge. Um, what what are some goals you're working on today? Hey?
With goals wise, like I've been trying to get like a small business, a hobby turned small business. I've been trying to get that going now for the last few months, and I'm straight up, I'm starting to get a little frustrated with it, with the red tape and stuff with that. But as otherwise for that, like my goals are to just give back, man, to do what somebody else did with me when I needed the help. To I remained fairly active with the alumni at the treatment center that I went through, and I work with some of the guys through there. I'm got service positions with my fellowship too, and my goals are basically to just stay accountable to the people that helped me, and accountable to the program that saved my life.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's awesome. That's great. I can hear it in your voice and just some of the things you said too. Speaking on authenticity,
yeah.
you know, how what's how's it feel to be authentic today and maybe not care so much, or do you care what other people think today, or
I'd be lying if I said I didn't care, but like compared to how much fear of what other people thought about me ran my life for like the longest time, over this, I would say pretty solid this last year of my life is like some of the people that have come into my life, and like the universe is put in front of me, and like the only reason that I was able to connect with these people and to build these kind of relationships is just being like my true self, being authentic, is being vulnerable when it's time to be vulnerable, being honest. And like I spent so pretty much my entire life with some sort of mask on to fit in with every group of people that was around me, and like it did me no favors. I had no real friends. I had a lot of associates, a lot of like people in my life, but it was none of them knew the real Doug. None of them none of them were at that level. And like when I started doing some outside help and some psychiatry and counseling and all that stuff too, about a year ago, and that really helped with the self-esteem and the ability to not give a fuck what other people think about me and to just be me, and what's going to happen is going to happen. And like the quality of my relationships around me has like I know some of these people for months, like under a year, and I've got better, stronger relationships with these people than some of my lifelong friends and family, like just from those moments of clarity and bonding that come through like trauma bonding basically. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm able to build up like relationships on other things, right? So,
Yeah. Yeah.
what are some qualities of yourself that you've developed or are most proud of? Like qualities, traits.
Oh, now I gotta talk about that kind of stuff.
But it's exciting in a sense because who we were
Yeah.
compared to who we are today, and then sometimes it's tricky because it's tough talking about stuff. But and especially the good things, right?
Yeah,
Like,
it is. I could get a pretty big list of things I don't like about myself going here. I like I love my sense of humor. I love my ability to turn things into a joke and to be able to lighten the mood when it's time. I also know that that's not always appropriate, and I've done a lot of work with that too, with reading the rooms and being able to be there when somebody needs me, not to be there to crack jokes. Like there's a time and a place for that too. Other good qualities, I'm always on time for everything. I don't know if that's a good quality because I feel like that's some sort of people pleasing, like anxiety driven thing, but like I'm a hard worker. I'm punctual. I when I set my mind to something, it's gonna happen. It's like there's no doubt about it. Something, little things will get in the way, and it's like I can hyper focus like no other when it's something that fills my soul. I can get her done.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'll tell you right now, punctuality isn't people pleasing. I'll call it the way it is. I think it's a level of respect. I think it's also time is the one thing that you can't get back, right?
Yeah.
So the fact that you give me your time or vice versa, it like is meaningful
Yes.
because
Yeah.
I'm never gonna be able to get that back, right? So
Yeah. I like that.
it's yeah. I don't think it's people pleasing. I think it's a gift,
Yeah.
or it's like an honor, that somebody can grace you with their presence, or spend that time with you when they
Yeah.
could be doing something else or
Yeah.
telling you
Very
to go
true.
fuck yourself. So, um, you believe in higher power today or
Oh,
God, your understanding?
oh, I do. I do. It's I spent a really long time trying to think about that and trying to like to be able to describe what a higher power was to me, and I overthink everything that was that part of that aspect of it. I came into the rooms and ignored all the steps with the word God, and I was like, I don't need this. I don't need any part of that. And that didn't do me any favors. I couldn't keep my shit together because I didn't have something out there helping me, guiding me through this. And like over the last couple of years now of surrender, my idea of a higher power has morphed, and it has turned into something. And like I couldn't describe it if I could, but it's something that I cherish and I hold very near to me. And I know when I'm in the right place at the right time, the universe like puts people in my path. It shows me signs. It guides me through hard times. Like I've got something I can pray to in times of stress, something I can meditate to in times of good. Like I really struggled with that for a really long time, and like being able to get out in nature and connect to the universe through nature is kind of what helped me upgrade my connection and increase my ability to hear and to be able to turn off the beehive in my mind to listen and like get those intuitive thoughts that come from that connection and that came from taking the steps as they were laid out and like kind of clearing that shit out of the way enough that I can be present in life.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it makes sense. I'll ask you a few more here. Um, wreckage of your past and making amends, you know, how, did you find it really difficult to do that, or like to own your past and then like put it in the past where it belongs?
You know, I'll straight up call myself out on some of this. I did some of the easy ones, and I've been sitting on the hard ones for quite some time now. I will say that that being able to clear up some of that wreckage with family members and close friends and some other people in recovery and stuff too, like that feeling of self-worth that comes from those conversations. And that's where the good shit comes from. That's like the tipping point of recovery that I've noticed too, is like even just doing the few family members and an ex of mine and some of those people that have been very near and dear to me. That is when I could feel like there's more out there. There's more out of this program. There's more of this good feeling, and I want to do it, and I really do, and I procrastinate, and I'm scared. Fear still is a big part of my life, and I'm scared. I'm one of those people that I'm like, I might harm them with this, so I'm going to manipulate this step a little bit and say that I don't want to do it because I could bring harm into their life. And I know that's bullshit, and I can hear it coming out of my mouth right now. Like there's some work that's got to be done, and I have kind of put some of it on hold to work some of those the steps after that too, with 10, 11, 12, and giving back and stuff. And I know I need to get my ass back to 9 and work on a little bit more of those amends. I've been sitting on letters for fucking months and praying on it, and maybe I'm not done step 8, and I'm not fucking willing to make all of these amends. We'll see.
It take
I'm gonna pray on this some more.
Well, it takes time too, right? And
Yeah,
at every step that we take in the right direction, that we're not acting in old behaviors, puts that much space there, and it shows how much we're not like that anymore, right?
yes, yeah,
Really, like knowing what we're apologizing for, right, is the other huge one, right?
yeah.
So I'll ask you this one then: how willingness to get uncomfortable and the benefits of it.
Ooh, that I learned at a pretty, I don't know if I learned. I started hearing this at a pretty early stage in my recovery, that like if you're not uncomfortable, you're not doing it properly. So I've learned, and I've kind of adapted to that uncomfortable. And like really, I think back to my entire childhood, my entire adolescence, I was uncomfortable fucking everywhere I was at all times in my existence. Like now it's like those bonding moments with other people in recovery, other struggling addicts in detox centers, and who are fresh into treatment, is like getting uncomfortable with these people and getting vulnerable with them, and like helping them, and like letting them know like it gets easier, man. It gets easier. There's a little bit of work we got to do to be spiritually connected and spiritually fit. It's worth it. This little bit of work we got to do to maintain what recovery can do for us, it's totally worth it.
Mhm.
And and uncomfortability comes with that for sure.
Yeah, nobody said it was going to be easy. We said it's going to be worth
The
it.
100%. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
This question I love to ask every guest, right? Because I think it's important. Any role models or mentors in your life, and what areas of your life?
Oh, there's a couple pretty key members of CMA in Edmonton area that I know 100% for sure. I would not be here if it wasn't for them not giving up on me when I was early in recovery and flip flopping around through treatment here. And then definitely some role models in Calgary with some sponsorship and some of the pillars I have that that bend over backwards to make sure other people in recovery are doing the things, man. I don't know if I should start dropping names here or not. Like, if they listen to this, they're gonna know who I'm talking about for sure.
Fair enough. Well,
Yeah,
thanks, guys. You know,
yeah, yeah.
Thanks for helping. Right, that's where it's at, right?
Yes, yeah.
And we also learn that trait too by the help we get. We realize we got to give it back too in order to
Oh,
help that other
100%.
person.
Yeah, that was a big part of what wasn't working for me when I was running Dougie's program. It was like I can't be responsible for that. I can't. I'm too busy for that. It's like now I have got a couple sponsees, and like I yearn for those text messages where I get to be that guy and talk them through that stuff. I like it, man. It's stressful some days and it's hard, and it usually comes when I'm real busy doing things. But I like that's the shit, man. Like
Yeah.
that really is like the level up in recovery is when you've got somebody else making poor choices in early recovery that I can be like, don't do that. I did that shit. It sucks. It's hard, man. You're going to learn some lessons out of this shit.
I know exactly.
Yeah.
I'll call it relationships.
Yeah.
But
100%.
there's one.
100%.
You hear
That's
Stig?
part of it for sure. Yeah.
That's one of them. Yeah. So we all learned that one,
Yeah.
Like, I don't think I've met somebody that didn't do it.
It'll,
I shouldn't say that. There might be
it'll
a
be
handful,
different
but
for me. It'll be different for
yeah,
me. Yeah.
exactly.
Oh, yeah.
And then you find out you're like, you were right. As long as you stay sober out of it, that's all that matters.
Yes,
right?
yeah,
Like,
exactly.
yeah,
There's always a lesson to learn from some of those poor choices that get made, man.
yeah, and that's
Yeah.
what your support network's for. You want to pull that a little bit closer?
Yeah,
Scoot up a little
yeah,
bit. There we go.
yeah. There we go.
I'm gonna ask you two more here.
Okay.
Gifts of recovery, stuff you've received. Maybe some unexpected ones too.
Guess a recovery. Like I think for myself, like this feeling of like inner acceptance of myself is the greatest thing that's come out of this. Like the greatest part of this connection with a higher power, and like a different feels like I'm on a different, like, fuck, I don't even know the word, like this connection that I've got with the universe now has like helped me experience what life can be like through the real Dougie, and like through the connection with other people around me, and like knowing like the key to happiness is to be there for somebody else and not be stuck inside my own head. Like I think that's the greatest thing in recovery, is like being able to step out of my fucking shit for long enough to see that other people are going through shit too, and to be able to help somebody, even if it's just to listen, if it's take somebody for coffee, go for a walk with somebody, do some step work, whatever, like all that stuff. Like I think that is my greatest gift through this for sure.
That's amazing,
Yeah.
and a lot of other people's too. Just being able to help, right? To get helped.
Yeah.
I'll finish with this question. This will be the last one I ask you. Then, do you want to describe freedom from addiction, like in your eyes, your words?
Okay, freedom from addiction. Like I, it was hard work being an addict, man. Like being a using addict. It took a lot of energy and stress and lies and manipulation and stuff, and like to wake up and to be able to like have a cup of coffee and watch the sunrise, and like know like I've got work in a couple hours and I'm sober, I'm well slept. No, I don't know about well slept, I don't sleep very well some days, but like that, to just know that I'm like counted on and people can depend on me, and that I can make a difference in so many people's days just by showing up and doing what I'm supposed to do, instead of fucking off and hiding in the basement and conning people out of money and stealing shit. Like it was a lot of work, man. Like it's so much work, and I never thought about how much work it was. And like I'm lazy. I straight up will call myself, I'm pretty lazy some days. I don't know how I did that shit for so long and didn't think there's an easier way out there.
Yeah.
There's an easier way, and it's so much, it's worth it. It's 100% worth it.
Yeah. Well, you don't know. Like they talk about step two, and I'm familiar with the steps. Is insanity, right?
Yeah.
I never thought I was insane until I started living a different life, and I could look back and see
Oh
how
yeah.
it was. Like
Yeah,
I
man.
had no clue,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that's the definition, right? Like
Yeah.
or I like this one too. Crazy people, or sane people know when they're going crazy. Crazy people don't know they're crazy.
Oh, yeah,
And I was
100%.
crazy.
It seemed like normal. It was normal to be around people like that. It was normal. Like your drug dealers were fucking weird people too, because like they're usually doing drugs too, and it's like these are the interactions I'm having. This is normal. Everything around, like all of this is normal. This is fine. Like
Yeah.
it wasn't like. You look back now and it's just like, what the fuck?
Yeah, and the world's so big, and there's so much available, and anything's possible, and
Yeah,
like there's a whole world out there, and I had no clue till I got clean.
yeah,
It's well, I think that pretty much wraps us up on time.
awesome.
Want to say thank you for sharing your truth, sharing your time with us.
Yeah,
I really appreciate it. I really enjoyed this conversation that we had.
awesome.
You know,
I'd like to thank you too. Like this is I was looking forward to this, and I'm glad like there's there's people out here doing stuff like this, man. We need to end the stigma. We need to this is what brings people who are on the cusp of like, maybe I got a problem, sit down and listen to something like this and be like, okay, that's happened to me, and maybe I should catch it before it gets any worse, kind of thing.
yeah. Well, and it's good for people to know like there's another way.
Yeah,
Like my mission statement's to create hope and inspire people that recovery is possible and life can be amazing, right?
yeah, yeah,
And compared to where we came from, fucking homeless and fucking, yeah,
yeah, man.
life is pretty amazing.
Yeah, it
And,
really is.
so yeah, it's planting that seed of hope.
Yeah,
Like it's planting that seed of hope that if we can do it, maybe they can do it. It's or if they can do it, I can do it. Like
yeah,
it's possible.
yeah, man. Yeah,
Recovery is available to anybody. This new way of life is available to anybody, but
yeah,
gotta fucking work for it.
yeah.
It doesn't come easy.
If you want what we have, you got to do what we did. And like, I didn't like hearing that before. I'm like, I didn't know what you did. You guys, they talked about the tools, all these tools of recovery. That shit drove me nuts in early recovery. I'm like, why don't you just tell me so I can stop coming to these meetings if you just tell me how to do it? And it's like, that's not how it works.
It's all the stuff you learn like over. Yeah, it takes
Yeah,
time.
yeah,
It takes
it
time.
does. It does.
Like,
And
it
it's
does not.
usually with hard lessons and uncomfortable situations and having to apologize for things and stuff like that. Like,
Yeah,
that's where the growth comes from for sure.
yeah, and that humility of like the sooner I learn that I'm human and I make mistakes and I'm not acting out of self-centeredness or selfishness,
Yeah,
that much quicker, right? And
yeah,
healthy boundaries was a huge one that I found like
yeah,
as the next step in recovery, right? Was
yeah.
being able to say no and not people please, and that was a big one. Awesome. So yeah, thank you for sharing your time, your truth, your story, your inspiration. I really appreciate it. I let the guests always finish off. What's something you'd love to leave the listeners that maybe we haven't talked about that you want, like your final thoughts for them?
Keep coming back. I'll just throw like a bumper sticker slogan out there. I don't know, man. Um, go easy on yourself. Like we spent a really long time beating ourselves up and stuck in that I'm not good enough phase. I assure you, you're good enough, and you're worth it, and you're worth the amount of work and uh, and connection that comes through this. You're worth it for sure.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
100%. Awesome. Thank you. And I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you want to see it, check out the YouTube channel, Addicts Living Free. It's something new that we're getting up and going, or that we have up and going. So if you don't want to just listen to the audio and you want to see us chat and
yeah,
go back and forth, you can join us on that channel. And I'll leave you guys the same way I leave you every episode, and that's make lots of memories, take lots of pics, show the world your smile. Cheers.
awesome. I like it.